campus picked me as the one of the representative to
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to webinar of Polemic on issue of leniency in sentence demand for criminal offender of novel Baswedan. Please allow me as the master of ceremonies to introduce myself. I'm Ega Prabandari Kusuma, who will guide the webinar today. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wa bihi nasta'inu ala umuri dunya waddin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrofil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du. The Honorable Mr. Dodik Setiawan Nur Herianto, SMH LLM PhD, as Secretary of International Program Faculty of Law, Universitas Islam Indonesia. The Honorable Mr. Dr. Mahrus Ali SMH, as a lecturer in Universitas Islam Indonesia. The Honorable Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan, SMH, as a lawyer in Soleh Adnan and Associates. The Honorable Mr. Muhammad Fatahillah Akbar, LLM, as a lecturer in Universitas Gadjah Mada. And our respect all invited guests from many sectors and all participants we are proud of. First of all, let us pray and praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Because of His blessing and mercy, we can come together without any obstacle here. With healthy conditions in the webinar of Polemic on issue of leniency in sentence demand for a criminal offender of novel Baswedan. Second, let us greet and pray to our beloved Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, who had brought us to the path of light and left the darkness in this life. I, as the Master of Ceremonies, would like to say welcome to the webinar event, which was held by Juridical Council as Master of Ceremonies to read the structure of the event today, as follows. First, opening. Second, reading Quran by Muhammad Rizaldi Rismawan. Third, opening and welcoming speech from Mr. Dodik Setiawan Nur Herianto, SMH LLM PhD. Fourth, reciting dua by Dennis Daniel. Fifth, reading discussion regulations. Sixth, reading out moderator CV. Seven, a brief introduction of speaker, topic of discussions, and each speaker CV. 8. Delivering materi speaker 1 from Mr. Dr. Mahrus Ali SHMH. 9. Delivering materi speaker 2 from Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan SHMH. 10. Delivering materi speaker 3 from Mr. Muhammad Fatahillah Akbar SHLLM. 11. Questions and answer session. 12. Reading conclusions. And the last is closing. Ladies and gentlemen, entering the first session, which is the opening, let us start the event today with a reciting basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The second session is reciting the Holy Quran by Muhammad Rizaldi Rismawan. To Muhammad Rizaldi Rismawan, time is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A'udzu billahi minasy syaithanir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya ayyuhalladzina amanu qu anfusakum wa ahlikum nara وقودها الناس والحجارة عليها ملائكة غلاظ شداد لا يعصون الله ما أمرهم ويفعلون ما يؤمرون يا أيها الذين كفروا لا تعتذروا اليوم إنما تجزون ما كنتم تعملون يا أيها الذين آمنوا توبوا إلى الله توبة نصوحا عسى ربكم أن يكفر عنكم سيئاتكم ويدخلكم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار يوم لا يخزي الله النبي والذين آمنوا معه نورهم يسعى بين أيديهم وبأيمانهم يقولون ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير يا أيها النبي جاهد الكفار والمنافقين واغلظ عليهم ومأواهم جهنم وبئس المصير صدق الله العظيم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Waalaikumsalam. Thanks to Muhammad Rizaldi Rismawan. Entering the third session, now we invite Mr. Dodik Setiawan Nur Herianto, SHMH LLM PhD, to giving a welcoming speech and also to open the webinar today. To Mr. Dodik Setiawan Nur Herianto, SHMH LLM PhD, time is welcome.
Thank you. Can you hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Dear Chair of Juridical Council of International Program, my beloved conference committee, the moderator, honorable speakers, and participants, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. First, let us give thanks to the presence of Allah for the blessings given so that our seminar this afternoon could be held in very well situation. I congratulate, first of all, the Juridical Council of International Program, Faculty of Law, Universitas Islam Indonesia, for carrying out democratically the new chair and the leadership during the election last time. I congratulate for the new leader, led by Akhiruddin Lubis and the team. Hopefully in the future, Juridical Council of International Program could develop rapidly and intensify the benefits. Not long ago, around a week ago, Juridical Council of International Program met and discussed about the deduction of the additional tuition fee issue. Long time before this request, we had thought about it and emphasized. With God's permission, yesterday, the rector had accommodated the request of the Juridical Council of International Program, our own students, and also WE International Program students as a whole. This means that during this situation, your voice could be heard and you could get access to justice from the university. The discussion this time was really very interesting topic, raising the novel Baswedan case, which was recently highlighted by the mass media. Truly, justice in this country is currently at stake. A group of people seem to be trying to provide their own meaning of justice itself, even though the perspective used is wrong and violates the law. So I'm very confident that this discussion held by Juridical Council of International Program will provide knowledge and can also be a small from a huge movement to encourage the government and the law enforcement to put justice as it should, especially in the novel Baswedan case. I thank to the speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Mahruz Ali, thank you for your time, and also the senior lawyer from Soleh Adnan Associates, and also our beloved teacher in international program, Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan. Thank you, Pak. And also Mr. Muhammad Fatahillah Akbar, SA LLM from Gajah Mada University. I also thank to the moderator and also the master of ceremony, Eka Prabandari Kusuma, and also Sabia Fitri Azahra, and also the organizers led by Akhiruddin Lubis. Thank you so much for organizing this conference. I think this is the first job that you could done very well during the first period of your leadership. With Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I officially open the conference. Good luck everyone and enjoy the conference. Billahi taufiq walidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Mr. Dodik Setiawan for opening this session. Hopefully what is conveyed can be benefit for us. The next session is Reciting Dua by Dennis Daniel. To Dennis Daniel, time is yours.
إلى حضرة النبي مصطفى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم شيء لله لنا ولهم الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه ويكافئ مزيده. يا ربنا لك الحمد كما ينبغي لجلال وجهك الكريم عظيم سلطانك. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك أعلى الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات إنه سميع قريب مجيب دعوات ويا قاضي الحاجات. اللهم إنا نسألك سلامة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة وعافية في الجسد وصحة في البدن وزيادة في العلم وبركة في الرزق وتوبة قبل الموت ورحمة عند الموت ومغفرة بعد الموت. اللهم هون علينا في سكرات الموت والنجاة من النار والعفو عند الحساب. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من العجز والكسل والبخل والحرم وعذاب القبر. ربنا اغفر لنا ذنوبنا ولوالدينا ولمشايخنا ولمعلمنا ولمن له حق علينا ولمن أحب وأحسن إلينا ولكافة المسلمين أجمعين. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dennis Daniel. Entering the fourth session is reading regulation. Before we entering to main discussions, please allow me to reading regulations first. The regulations are: first, questions and answer session will be open when the end of the material presentation session. Second, in the questions and answer session, first session will be open consisting of 3 questions, and the second session consisting of 2 questions. Third, question and answer session can be done in 2 ways. For each participant who join the webinar via Zoom can type the questions in the chat column, or if the questioner wants to ask directly to the speaker, can click the raise hand feature. and be asked to turn on camera when asking. And the participants may ask the material directly when there is a directions from the moderator to us. Third, for participants who join via live YouTube are welcome to ask questions through the YouTube comment column, which will be read later by the moderator to be invited to ask the speaker. And the last, when asking, the participants are obligated to mention the name and the origin before asking the questions to the speaker. And also, there will be provided link presence in the end of the sessions for participants who joining this event until end. Ladies and gentlemen, entering the main event is the presentations of material that will be guided by Sabila Fitri Azhara as the moderator at this webinar. Previously, I will read the webinar moderator CV today. Sabila Fitri Azhara, as member of Juridical Council of International Program, Faculty of Law, Universitas Islam Indonesia, from 2018 until 2019. Sabila Fitri Azhara, also as member of Student Association of International Law, Faculty of Law, Universitas Islam Indonesia, from 2019 until now. Sabila Fitri Azhara, also as the chairwoman of Education and Advocacy Division of Juridical Council of International Program Faculty of Law, Universitas Islam Indonesia, from 2019 until now. Next, I will give the session to the moderators. To Sabila Fitri Azhara, time is welcome.
Thank you so much, Engel Prabandari, for the time. And I would like to say thank you for Mr. Dodik Setiawan for the warm and welcoming opening speech. And I would like to say good afternoon for all the participants, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining this today webinar. And I cannot say how much I'm grateful because I can say that all the participants come from all sectors of law expertise, start from the prosecutors and lecturers and also lawyers comes to today's webinar. I feel so honored for being chosen to be today's moderator. And I would like to say welcome and good afternoon to all the speakers. I would like to say thank you for coming and make the time to delivering knowledge and your perspective to us today. And I would like to say thank you to Juridical Council of University of Islam Indonesia for choosing and trusting me to lead today's discussions. And I would like to explain briefly explanations about today's webinar. What are the materials that we are going to discuss today? So today's theme of this event is polemic on issue of leniency in sentence demand for criminal offender of Novel Baswedan. So we know after 2.5 years since the attack on 2017, police have arrested the attackers who threw sulfuric acid to both eyes of Novel Baswedan. The defendants are Roni Bugis and Rahmat Kadir Mahulet. Both of them are police officers with the level of brigadier from Kelapa II Depok. So both have been charged with violating Article 353, Paragraph 2 of the Criminal Code regarding torture plans that cause severe bodily damage. Strangely, the prosecutor charged the two police officers with a 1-year sentence imprisonment. So what makes today's interesting, what makes the theme of our webinars is interesting, is that we can all agree that there are some odds and irregularities that invites us questions and also comments from a lot of people regarding their involvement in this acid attack. Because firstly, seeing the victim itself, he was an investigator for the Corruption Eradications Commission, or as we know KPK. And then secondly, when comparing with other cases that happen in Indonesia that involve throwing an acid, the charges is far longer than the novel case itself, where this case itself can be said is a high profile because it was highlighted by the masses, and then because it was carried out by the intellectuals such as police, resulting this victim's left eye permanently disabled and his right eye can only see the visions in percentage of 50%. And thirdly, seeing the prosecutors reasoned that defendants accidentally dumped sulfuric acid in Novel's face and injured his eyes, but paying attention to the time and place and property that used in this attack invites the questions. Does this not indicate planned and as previously observed, thus is still considered as ordinary prosecutions. So we're likely today we can discuss this furtherly, and then we aim that we can acknowledge particularly student and also society in general about how must be punished for the defendant in Baswedan novel case and the perspective of manner in criminal law, and also to improve critical thinking skills for the participant in responding to cases such like this, punishments, leniencies given to the defendant of novel Baswedan, and knowing the perspective of legal experts today and professionals about how actually they react to this particular problem. I would like to introduce our speakers today, and I would like to briefly tell you the CV of each speakers. So first we have our first speaker. Um, Assalamualaikum Dr. Mahrus Ali, SHMA.
Salam.
So he today, okay, so today he will explain about the application of improving a severe mistreatment case. So Mr. Mahrus Ali was born in Pamekasan, February 14, 1982. He is a permanent lecturer of University of Islam Indonesia. He graduated and received his bachelor and master degree both in criminal law, both in the law faculty of University of Islam Indonesia with a cum laude, and then received his doctoral degree in also criminal law in law faculty of University Diponegoro with also a cum laude, and also he wrote multiple publications regarding criminal law and demeanor. And then we're coming to the second speakers. We have Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan, SHMH Lit. Assalamualaikum, sir. How are you? So, Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan was born in Padang 6 November 1957. He received his bachelor degree in law faculty of University of Islam Indonesia and received his master in business law in Universitas Indonesia, and also his master in litigation in law faculty of Gajah Mada University. He now is an attorney and a founding partner of law firm Soleh Adnan and Associates, Jakarta, but also as a lecturer in law faculty in international program of University of Islam Indonesia. And then the last speaker, and last but not least, come from the North Campus. Welcome and Assalamualaikum, Mr. Muhammad Fatahillah Akbar.
Waalaikumsalam.
You, sir? Yeah, Mr. Muhammad Fatahillah Akbar, SHLLM, today is going to explain about the relationship of Novel Baswedan case with enormous corruption case in Indonesia. So Mr. Muhammad Fatahillah Akbar was born in August 7th, 1989. He received his bachelor degree in law faculty of the Gajah Mada University, Jakarta, and then later his master degree of law in the Adelaide Law School, the University of Adelaide, Australia. He is now both secretary as well as lecturer at Criminal Law Department of Faculty of Law in Universitas Gajah Mada. So for the first speaker, Dr. Mahrus Ali, you might now explain and delivering your material. The time is yours, Mr.
Okay, thank you very much for the moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Pak Dodi, how are you? Long time not see you.
Alhamdulillah. How are you, Pak Mahrus? Are you still in Pamekasan right now?
Yes, because nobody here believed that COVID will cause the death of the people.
Yeah.
Where is Pak
Yeah.
Thomas?
So, honorable speakers, my senior, Pak Ahmad Wirawan Adnan. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you, Pak Mahrus?
I'm okay. Are we Madura? I have been here for 3 months.
Well,
And
step back.
honorable speakers, this is one of my best friends. Mas Akbar, how are you?
Very good, Mas Bruce.
Okay. I'm sorry because now I'm staying in the public area, so maybe you see my face in not clear frames, but because I have only 20 minutes to present my PowerPoints, And of course, I just want to summarize. Can you see my screen sharing?
Yes.
Okay. Criminal law on serious maltreatment, learning from novel Baswedan's case. Let me give you a general descriptions on maltreatment in Indonesian Penal Code. If you read article from 351 to 355 or 356, you will find that there are 4 types of maltreatment promulgated in Indonesian Penal Code. The first is maltreatment. The first is this is the first. You can see the regulations in Article 351, and then the second is maltreatment with premeditations. The third is serious maltreatment, and the last is serious maltreatment with premeditations. And let me focus on serious maltreatment. But before I go forward to serious maltreatment, let me give you some descriptions and what is maltreatment itself. Here, based on arrest, any act committed intentionally to cause pain or injury on the body of another persons. One of the most important clue here is body. Body means the entire body of human being from foot to hair. This is body. So the object of maltreatment is on the body of human beings, not only on the eyes on human beings. Okay. Then, what is serious maltreatment? You can see the explanation. You can find the explanation in Article 90 of Indonesian Penal Code. Yeah, illness or injury which does not leave any prospect for a complete recovery or throughout which danger of life exists. And then the second, continuous incompetence for performing official and professional activities. And the third criteria that can be used as the category to see whether the injury or whether the crimes match the serious maltreatment, loss of use of sane organs, and then the next is mutilations, and then paralysis, and then disturbance of the intellectual capabilities which last for more than 4 weeks, and the removal or death of the womb of a woman. So there are several indicators to assess whether the crimes match the serious maltreatment. And then in Indonesian Penal Code, there are actually 2 types of serious maltreatment offense. The first is the crimes which has been promulgated in Article 354, and then the second is 355. A person who deliberately caused to another serious physical injury shall be guilty of serious maltreatment, be punished by a maximum imprisonment of 8 years. And then if the fact results in the death, the offender shall be punished by a maximum of imprisonment of 10 years. This is Article 354 contains the offense of serious maltreatment. And the next article relates to the types of what I call serious maltreatment with premedications. Serious maltreatment committed with premedication shall be punished by a maximum of imprisonment of 12 years. So the length of the punishment, okay, is differed from like 10 years to 12 years. And then the second, if the fact results in a death, the offender shall be punished by a maximum imprisonment of the 15 years. Okay, the 4 types of maltreatment requires the intention of the offender. So the offender intends to commit a crime. So when there is a case which is maltreatment and the offender commit negligently, it doesn't meet the criteria of maltreatment. So even though there are 4 types of maltreatment, but those 4 types requires intention of the offender. Now look at the case. Here is the indictment of Novel Baswedan case. The primary indictment, Article 355, okay, and then subsidiary indictment Article 353, and then more subsidiary Article 351, okay. All three types of maltreatment requires intentions. So when there is the intention in the offender, when there is no intention in the hand of the offender, so the offender must be released. Okay, here it is, the articles. Now, in the sentence demands, okay, okay, in the sentence demands, the offenders are proven guilty of the offense promulgated in Article 353 on the reasons that they did not deliberately throw the sulfuric acid to Noble Baswedan eyes. The offender should be sentenced only 4 years. This is the reasons why the public prosecutors only match the criteria in the subsidiary indictments. The problem or the question is that since when I become spirit object from the offense of maltreatment? This is something very crucial when we discuss the offense of maltreatments, because the object is not on I only, but on the body of human beings. Okay, so in a crime of maltreatment, I is not apart from body of persons. So the reason of public prosecutors who sentence the offender only a year is not acceptable. And then the second, as I have said before, that all three types of the crime in the indictment require that the offense must be committed deliberately or intentionally. So it is something illogical when the public prosecutor assumes that the defendants did not, okay, commit a crimes intentionally, but he still, okay, proposed to sentence the defendant for years. For me, if the elements of offense does not meet, the offender must be released. So it is something very illogical, or in my terms, contradiction terminis. In one side, the public prosecutors argues that the defendant did not deliberately throw the sulfuric acid to Noble Baswedan eyes. Okay, but in another side, he still proposed to sentence the offender only 4 years. For me, if the elements of intention is not met, so the defendant must be released. And then the last is, the argumentation only makes sense if maltreatment also requires negligence beside intentions. But remember, you will find clearly that there is no negligence elements in proving the crime of maltreatments. All 4 types of maltreatments require intentions. So when the defendant or when the public prosecutor assumes that the defendant didn't commit crimes intentionally, the public prosecutor should release the defendant in his recourse or in his sentence demands. I think that's all from my presentations. I cannot correlate this with political aspects, even though everybody can correlate the connections between political aspects and why the sentence demand should be only a year. And public prosecutors should release or must release the defendant, because based on his argumentation that the defendant did not commit a crime intentionally, whereas 4 types of maltreatment require intentions. I think that's all. Thank you very much for your active involvement. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Marusali. The explanation is pretty clear and it's very easy to understand for us today. And for today's material from Mr. Marusali is about the application of criminal law and proving a severe mistreatment. And he he already explained about what is actually a serious maltreatment, and then separately defined in each what is in maltreatment and what is in serious maltreatment, and then where the serious maltreatment were discussed in criminal code, and then the argument from the public prosecutors regarding the case of the sentence demand, and then it's pretty much found the irregularity, which is the element of the intention of doing the attack itself is not fulfilled. Then why actually the prosecutors charged him for 1 year imprisonment? From his explanations, the attacker should have been released because it's not fulfilled the element of the intention in doing a serious maltreatment. Thank you so much for the explanation, Mr. Marus Ali. Right now we are coming to the second speakers, which is from Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan, who is going to explain the perspective in the professional ethics. Mr. Ahmad Wirawan, you may now explain the materials. The time is yours.
Thank you, Sabila. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Would you share my slide, please? My PowerPoints. Okay. All right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin wassalatu wassalamu ala israfil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain amma ba'du. I guess after hearing Mr. Mahdur's presentations, I guess I'm introducing a different nomenclature for this crime. Pak Mahdurus used the term maltreatment. I use a different term, which is I have searched this because it happened in America and another jurisdictions. It is called first degree aggravated assault. That's the term I use. It's the same descriptions, but I use a different terminology and different nomenclature. Okay, what I presented here in this slide, what we have here, I believe what Pak Mahdur have explained. This is a serious crime. It's a serious crime because it is called a first-degree aggravated assault. When you hear the term first degree, it means a crime committed with a plan. Okay, so it's premeditated crime. I said it's a serious crime because the outcome is very horrific and it's evil. Evil because it is being performed with intention to cause physical harm or severe injury to someone. That's why I call it serious. In this case, if you see in my slide here, the offender or the alleged offender uses force or violence to accomplish his intention. He performed, as Sabila said earlier, an acid attack. Now, a crime like this not only can a victim be seriously injured, but their mental state can also be greatly affected. So it's not only physical harm, but also psychological harm. That's what I'm trying to point out. In the US, it is called, this kind of crime, it is called aggravated assault, okay, or attack. This kind of crime, it carried a heavy penalty, ranging from 1 to 20 years of imprisonment. For a first-degree crime, okay, I said earlier, first-degree crime is a crime with a plan. Such as this one, such as the one is brought to court by this prosecutor. The punishment at least is 10 years. But here in Indonesia, in our criminal code, it only provides a maximum of imprisonment, as mentioned earlier by Pak Matrus, 8 years or something. 8 years, I forgot. I didn't take note, but I think it was 7 to 8 years. Anyway, it's lower than 10 years, okay? And yet, our prosecutor here, you know, the one with this smiling face on your left, our prosecutor here only demand a sentence for 1 year of imprisonment. So definitely I reviewed, there's something wrong there, okay? Well, I forgot to thank you for the Judicial Council and invite me, but anyway, thank you, I appreciate, and I like doing a talk show like this. Anyway, I was assigned by the host, by the committee, by the producer of this show. I call it a show, by the way. The producer of this talk show to assess and point out only on the ethical issue, on the ethical aspect of the case, especially on the conduct by the officer of the court, the ethical conduct of the prosecutor, okay, and the defense lawyer and the judge. Inshallah, I will use the time given to me to try to point out and cover all these officer of the court. Now, but first, let's take a look of what kind of ethic violation does this prosecutor in the picture here commit. I read in the prosecutor code, kode etik kejaksaan untuk penuntut umum, on section 4, it stipulates tidak boleh merekayasa fakta. I do not know what's the correct translation of that, but the essence of that norm would be a prosecutor should not fabricate a case. Gak boleh merekayasa perkara. That's the message. That's the essence of that code. Okay. In a clear language, a legal language, I would say that prosecutor should not prosecute or proceed with a trial without probable cause. Meaning that this gentleman here, his name is, what's his name? Frederick Adar, okay? So the team led by Frederick Adar should have a reasonable amount of suspicion. This means under our KUHAP, it means that it has to be supported with at least 2 instruments of proof as guided by our KUHAP, okay? So that's probably the violations. Moving on to slide number 2, please. Co-host, can you assist me and point out and slide number 2, my slide number 2? Next slide. Okay, here. Okay, carried, but it's cut off and the top is cut off. But so when you see this this diagram here, so based on the outcome or judging by the product of his work, I mean the jaksa, yeah, he was only demanding for 1 year of imprisonment. With this, this is why it called in the title, it's called lenient. This is very lenient. With this in mind, we have reason to believe that Frederick has committed or violated the prosecutor code of ethics. What is that? It's called fabrication of the case. Here in this diagram, it explains how I arrive at my conclusions that this case is fabricated and that the prosecutor is an accomplice or at least a complicit with the fabrication. Accomplice or complicit itu ada medepleger ya, medepleger turut serta. At least from what I understand, or from my based on my observation, there are accomplices, there are complicits with the fabrication. Because this is the only argument that can explain why it's happening the way that it did. This diagram also indicate this is what the if you see all of it, you see the criminal element and the conspiracy theory. You can see that all of this must be proven by prosecutor. So in order for the prosecutor to have a case, primarily he have to have what we call probable cause. And this is the probable cause in this diagram. It's all the probable cause that he has to comply, that he has to establish before entering the court. Frederick, the jaksa, the penuntut umum, charged the defendant with, the article of 353 to. This is a very difficult case to try, to prosecute. This is very difficult because when you look at the criminal element there, first you have to have intention, which means, and when I say intention, it also identical with the word motive. So you have to have a motive. You have to have a reason. We heard, okay, you got it now. You heard, we all heard that their motive, what did they do? Why did they attack Novel Baswedan? Their reasons was to teach him lessons, to educate him. This is kind of vague, okay? In my opinion, this is vague, and using the youth kind of terminology, it's not only vague, but it is lame. And I honestly, it's unbelievable that the court, buy this or satisfied with this kind of lame excuses. As you see, the indictment also stated that that the crime that was done together, it means it's an incomplicit. So there's a partner in crime. So the way the indictment was structured, Rani and Rahmat, they are in this together, and together they assault Baswedan. So the prosecutor obviously forgot or deliberately forgotten that he must specify what kind of conspiracy the two suspects commit. The prosecutor must specify that for the sake of legal certainty, kepastian hukum, which is, I believe, Pak Mahdhur share with my opinion that in criminal law, certainty, legal certainty is of the essence. It's very important. It's very significant. So they have to specify. This jaksa here, this prosecutor, he must specify. Were they, when I mean they, Rani and Rahmat here, were they both just a plagiar, the one who actually commit? Or one is a plagiar and the other is the dun plagiar. The one is plagiar and the other is the principal offender. Or are they both as plagiar? Meaning the dun plagiar is elsewhere. It's not in this picture and it's not being prosecuted. So what I'm trying to point out here is that failure by this prosecutor to specify their role in this crime is very unethical, which means they are not doing their best to prosecute the offender to achieve conviction beyond reasonable doubt. Okay, go to slide number 3, please. So, who is this handsome gentleman you see in the picture? Now, excuse me. Now, let's take a look at the profession which I am familiar with. That profession is lawyer, attorney, or advocate. Yeah, that's my profession. Or whatever people are referring to this day for this particular legal profession, which has to do with practicing law. Again, The issue I would like to raise here is on ethical aspect. Now, please bear in mind that the facts to which my review is based on is only those facts which were available in the news. Meaning, I do not have available with me the court documents. I don't have what do you call surat dakwaan, a letter of indictment. I don't have that. I don't have the requisitor, surat requisitor written written sentence demand. I don't have that either. Court transcript. No one has that. So obviously, all of these documents are being kept from public. Just deactivate animasinya. Where was I? Okay, meaning that I don't have those court documents with me. So I'm thinking, this is my personal opinion. Obviously, all of these documents are being kept from public. They don't want public to know. They don't want public to have access to this kind of document. How do I know that? I know this because before I make my appearance here in this webinar, I make contacts with those people in the faculty that have, presented this kind of case. And from what from them, I noticed that they share the same impression as me, that I think they're hiding this from public. So anyway, I get nothing. I get no document from them. So from everyone that I asked. So again, let's take a look at this picture here. The lead counsel, he is, the man in this picture here is the lead counsel on the defense team. His name is Irjen Rudy Herianto. Irjen is what? I think Irjen is a two-star general, right? I think in the military, there's a two-star general. And from what I gather, from the information that I gathered, he is still a police on duty. He is still an active police and not a retired police. He is two-star general defending a suspect or two suspects. So I say to myself, really, two-star general for this kind of case? If he is still an active and still under police payroll, we can confirm that Rudy Herianto is here on this trial on official mission. That means he is doing a police duty. Because, let's think of this a minute here. Because it would be impossible, or at least it would be very unlikely that a high-rank general, a high-rank police officer like Rudy Herianto is admissible to practice law in court without the approval of his superior. This is very unlikely. It never happened through my years of practicing law since 1981. By the way, if you do your mathematics right, that's almost 40 years. So when I say approval from his superior, I mean that this must be approved by someone who is up there, way up there, the #1 police, the Kapolri, I believe, the chief of the Indonesian National Police. Who is he? Mr. Honorable Idam Aziz. I think that, I believe he's still, as we speak, I believe he's still the Kapolri. So it has to be that Rudy Herianto is with approval from Kapolri. If not, or if he denied, at least it's within Kapolri's knowledge. So it could not be without his knowledge. So you see, if Pak Rudy Herianto defending someone like Bugis and Kadir, this means he is on official mission. I noticed that previously Pak Marus don't want to get involved in politics. This is not politics. This is educated guess, Pak Matrus. So this is academic guess, okay? Because so he is on official mission or special assignment from National Police. What is his mission? It can't be just, his mission can't be just, you know, to defend these two suspects, yeah? Because the two suspects, these two suspects here, when they allegedly assault or attack Novel Baswedan with acid, they were both not on police duty. Siapa tadi namanya? Bugis and Kadir ketika melakukan itu kan tidak sedang melakukan tugas kepolisian. So why would someone, a two-star general, defend a suspect like this when he was not doing a police duty? So that is a big question to me, let alone is defended by a two-star general. Or on the contrary, using a reverse psychology, okay, the suspect, I mean, or the suspect presented in this court, or whoever they are, because we really don't know if this is a real suspect or not, okay? I say whoever because we have doubt that the court is prosecuting the real offender. Either way, because Rudy Herianto is on mission, the only logical explanation is that his mission must be beyond this trial. His mission is to protect the interests of the entire police department. I can say, I dare say that maybe even the entire administration, the entire government of the Republic of Indonesia. So that was his mission. So you can't, you or anyone else can't blame us to assume, you know, that his real mission is to cover up. To cover what? To cover up national embarrassment or national shame. Let's deduct. Let's analyze this, okay? He appeared as a defense lawyer. Does Irjen Rudy Herianto have a license to practice law? Ask that question. Ethically, the judge in the beginning of every trial usually asks for identifications. They ask. I've been practicing law. The judge always asks me, where is your kartu advokat? Where is your kartu advokat? He always asks that. Did the judge ask that question to this general? If the judge didn't ask that, that's a violation of ethics by the court and by the judge. Now, let's look at the definitions of advocate or lawyer. One of the elements of you being an advocate or an attorney is that you have a license. You're provided with a license. And according to the law, a license may not be issued if applicant is still attached with the government institution, this is the case for Irjen Rudianto. So we can confirm here that Rudy is practicing law without a license, and that the judge acknowledged that, knows that he doesn't have a license, but they allow it to happen. They allow it to proceed with the trial. And the prosecutor didn't care for it. He ignored it because prosecutor in a case like this usually always confront us, you know, where is your license, you know? Okay, let's assume that he does have a license. Let's assume that this general have a license, and that license may have given by the court on incidental cases, meaning that's only for this purpose that he has. But this is clearly against Advocate Code of Ethics. If he does have a license, then it's a violation to our Code of Ethics, because the code here, you are not allowed. See the code on top here, right? Here, right? Look at that code. It's clearly against advocate code of ethics. Okay, because you are not allowed to have two parallel profession, especially if you're attached with the government, because it will disrupt or impede or obstruct the independence of an advocate. In this case, it will obstruct the independence of the defense attorney. The other code, the bottom one here, if you are still engaged with the government, you may not practice law. That's basically what it says. Another issue is code is conflict of interest. There's a conflict of interest, definitely, which in our profession is a very serious offense. You can be disbarred if you violate this, or if you commit a conflict of interest. Your license disbarred means that your license can be revoked. And in our world, in our profession, in our legal community, it's a big deal, because this is our life. We are talking about what our only profession where we make a living from. So if you revoke that license, it means you revoke and you taken away our life. But him being, let's talk of it. Take a look of his breakup, Irjen Rudy Herianto here. He is a former director of Reskrimun, director of a big divisions of criminal investigations in the Jakarta Police Department, or I think it is known for Polda Metro Jaya, who was at that time, he was handling and investigating the assault or the attack on Novel Baswedan. Now here he is defending the attacker. So this is clearly a violation or conflict of interest. I think all participants may remember a case of Todong Mulya Rubis. He was disbarred. His license was permanently revoked. And the violation was not as clear as this one here. But Rudy Herianto, I don't think he cared for this. I don't think it will be his concerns. Because of why? Because he probably doesn't have a license, so there's no license to be revoked because he does not have a license, and he doesn't care. He can always return to the police force. Okay, go ahead with my next slide, and I hope it's my next slide, last slide. So the kind of concurrent conflict of interest I'm talking about, it's called concurrent conflict, which is because there are many levels of conflict of interest. And this one here, the one I described to you, is being committed by Rudy Herianto, is the most common one. And it is easily to be recognized than other level of conflict of interest. As I will explain here, it's easy to be recognized because it's directly adverse with the interest of the opponent. At one time here, as I illustrate in this picture here, at one time he is defending the suspect, but at the same time, he possesses the interest to prosecute the suspect. So how could it be a fair trial when he is kakinya ada di dua tempat? That's what I'm trying to say. So how can we not suspect that all of this is a one big cover-up? Thank you, Sabila. I return the time to you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much for the explanation, Mr. Ahmad Gurawan Adnan. We can see that the lack of, it's really clear that there must be some elements in these situations. And so Mr. Ahmad Gurawan Adnan explaining different jurisdictions from another country, which is in America. So he introduced us a new name, which is in the first degree aggravated assault. And then he what is actually uh, a first degree aggravated assault, and then he later explained about the how the asset attack itself affected not only physically but also mentally, and then the maximum of the punishment is heavily 7 years. And he pointed out that some of the violations done by the prosecutors and also the advocate that involved in this today's and in this case, and then the prosecutors is proven to fabricated the facts, the legal facts, and prosecutors may not prosecute a charge that the prosecutor knows is not supported by probable cause. And then we, after the explanations, it's pretty clear that the prosecutors has failing to proving the each roles of the each defendant. And then we see that if the prosecutors wants to prove it, then they have to have the probable cause, and then later continues to the advocate for the defendant. And then we see the lawyers itself, the advocate itself, is also a police officer that I think it is very violating the ethics, because someone who is appointed to the government shall no longer be allowed to practice law in the court during his service with the government. It is a big deal. It is a big deal for us as also as a for the legal students also to know that the prosecutors must be specified to what kind of conspiracy in this case. And then until now, the lawyer and the law experts still don't get any of the documents of indictment letters because they don't want people to know this case. Of course, it's obviously a dual job here, police and also an advocate. I think we can all see clear that um, Mr. Ahmad Wirawan also mentions the existence of Mr. Rudy Herianto as a defense lawyer of the suspects who was violating the ethics of advocate, because he has a parallel profession as a government officer and an advocate at the time. So I think it was pretty clear, and see uh, we can see how the critical of our minds seeing this case and seeing this event. Thank you so much for the explanation, Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan. And then we come to the last but not least speaker, Mr. Muhammad Fatahillah Akbar. You may now delivering your materials. The times is yours, Mr.
Thank you, Mbak Sabila Safitri, as the moderator. For honorable speakers, Pak Mahrus Ali, my beloved friend from Faculty of Law UAE, and also Bapak Ahmad Wirawan Adnan. Thank you for the materials given. I think as the last speaker here, I start also with Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the Juridical Council to invite me in this particular discussions. Very nice and very hot topic, and we need to always discuss about this. I agree with all honorable speakers. Thank you also for Bapak Dodi, yang after giving us a chance to give this discussions, and also the Juridical Council also has very good management for holding this webinar. Okay, it is actually interesting when I see the topic from Mas Mahrus talking about maltreatment, and also when I see the topic from Bapak Adnan talking about the ethics within the prosecutors and also the defenders. That is actually a good topic. Actually, it is better we focus on those topics actually. But in the term of reference, I have to find the line between this case and also the corruption eradication. So I think I will at some points discuss on those topics also when I provide the line, whether it will be impacted on the corruption eradication in Indonesia or not. So I will see this. First, we see the relationship first. When we talk about the corruption eradications, we have many things. So not only Novel Baswedan case. Novel Baswedan case is actually a part. Is it significant or not? That will be on your opinion. But it is actually particularly important also for the corruption eradication, I believe. We have the KPK revision last year with many massive actions in many parts of the Indonesian. So that is actually very good impact also. When they have also new KPK's commissioners, when the police general become the chief of the KPK, that is actually the new history that also will impact on the corruption eradication system, maybe. And also one of the round is not really written, but I will give. So the coordination between KPK and the other law enforcement. For example, now we are talking about the relationship between KPK and police institutions, Polri. KPK and Polri is actually, if you read the KPK law, the law number 30 of 2002, and also the amendment in 2019, we will see that the law demand that KPK has a good relationship with the police and also the general attorney prosecutors. They have to have the good relationship. Why? Because the corruption committed in all over Indonesia, so they need to work together. But that is actually impacted by the Novel Baswedan case. We complain to the police and we complain to the prosecutors. That actually will impact on also the next future cases. Yeah. And also some other law, like for example, government administrative law that reduced the number of corruptions after 2016, I believe. Okay, so with all this complex relationship, we will try to discuss focusly for focus to the other things. Okay, first, before I see the relationship, how was the case handled? So that's actually we'll discuss the things also. First, to start is justice delayed is justice denied. For this particular thing, when we have to wait for almost 3 years to have the case handled, that's actually the problem. But it is actually only the picture of the small problem. Why? Because the delay of the cases, we have many court cases, the cases that is not handled properly by many law enforcement, not only the police officers. KPK also has several cases that is not still in the process. So because of that, in the Novel Baswedan case, takes so long, that also raised the problem. The security of the officers of KPK also can be the problem. So that is why this is actually the first problem in this Novel Baswedan case, not only the process of the examination in the court. Okay, the problem of the delay. Why? Why the delay? First, KPK has no competence to investigate the case because this is actually a maltreatment case, according to Pak Mahrus. Also, the term also, or Pak Ahnan is about assault. I forget the term used by Pak Adnan. So it is maltreatment, torture, or that is actually not the competence of the KPK. So that become the problem because KPK asked to the police officer to discuss that, and the police officer has a very big issue for that. Government, including police, already established task force or facts finding theme. Yeah, so that is actually the theme. They have to enlighten the case, but it is not true. It did not really work for that time, so they still establish for that. And also the complexity of the cases, as mentioned by Pak Adnan also, about the whether there is the intellectual data or intellectual persons that manipulate this case, that become complicated. That becomes very difficult to trace if it involves high rank people. That is not that easy. So that is why it is delayed. So, but it is not only one of the delay case. Every year, according to Indonesian Police Watch, yeah, only 40%, so less than 50% case is solved by the police. There are many factors. One of that is actually complexity. They also have limited human resources. Sometimes they have very bad financial supports, yeah, or sometimes only willingness of the enforcer. Yeah, also in KPK, if you see the amendment of the law on KPK, they have, if the KPK delay the case more than 2 years, the KPK should terminate the investigations. And we can see there are several cases like Ergelino, Plindo 2, Rohadi as the Panitera Justice Administrations of the Jakarta Court, and also the Diratama Procurement in TNI. Also, they have several cases, actually more than 10 cases in KPK also delay. So the delay of the cases happens a lot. That is actually, so Novel Baswedan case is the example. So we need to fix this, how to fix the delay of the cases so we can get the justice sooner. So it is not justice delay, justice denied, like that principles. Okay, to cut off the time. And also, in this case, police is the suspects. Is the suspects and also the defendants now as the accused of the court. In the other country, for example, if the police committed a crime, for example, UK, Australia, or Hong Kong, they have independent body for violations by police. So if the police officers committed several violations, even it is actually according to the law, according to the police law, or according to the general law, if they violated criminal law, they have independent body to do the investigations. Why? It's very easy. It is because the conflict of interest, as mentioned also by Pak Nan, about the conflict of interest. Conflict of interest not also by the legal counsel, the investigator, also Polri. But I think it is very difficult in Indonesia to have something like that because we already have many independent bodies. So that is why actually why KPK did not have the authority to adjudicate the maltreatment or the violence against its officer. I think that will solve some of problem, but not that easy actually. Yeah, that's actually only the example how to avoid conflict of interest. We have to have an independent body or something or some independent bureau in the Polri. In here, involvement of the Polri, they become the defendant. Yeah, two persons become the defendant, investigator by the Polri, and the defendant counsel also. Yes, also by Pak Anand mentions it is violation. It violates the law on advocates, I believe so, but they have the percap, the police commissioners regulations number 2 2017. In that regulation, they regulate that the bureau, the legal bureau of the Polri, can defend the police officers. In the logical way, it happens a lot, not only in the policy things, but it can be uh it can sorry, my kid just coming up. At that point, in logical reasons, it can be like this. If you work at the ministry, or if you work in the some office or something like that, they will defend you only if you are prosecuted because what you do, or what is your duty. For example, you are a police officers, and you have to do the necessary things by shooting the suspect of terrorists, for example. The legal bureau of the police officers, in logical way, they can do the counsel, but that is actually in the duty of the police officers. What happens in this case, is it actually the duty or not? But when I check the percap 2 number 2017, in that regulations, they did not require such a requirement. So if you do something else that is not related at all to your job, it is possible that the legal bureau can defend. But actually, to it violates the law on advocate, I believe. So the legal basis is only the per cap. Is not, there is no other higher regulations to regulate that. The question also for this case, because the officers violate the code of ethics, is there any decisions for that that will also need to be published, so we can see how the Polri perspective for that? Okay, that is actually only one of the topics. Now we see for the how they establish this. Actually, I will just very small talking about this, because this actually not actually my job to explain this now, but just to be involved in the discussion of this. It is right that the primary is the first degree of aggravated assault. It is actually the first degree of torture with the premeditated with the plan. But that is actually the idea here. If you work as the prosecutor, it is actually your duty to prove the primary indictment. There is no written or specific regulation of that, but it is your duty. Why do you have the subsidiary indictment? Why you have subsidiary indictment is for the judge. If the judges do not agree with the prosecutor, if they do not agree with the prosecutor, they can have any other option, the subsidiary or more subsidiary. So it is actually a bit weird that they prove the subsidiary, even though that it happens a lot in many cases. It happens a lot in many cases that the prosecutor did not prove the primary indictment. But that's actually a bit weird, because they already learned the evidence, so they decide the primary indictment for that. And it is actually a bit weird also to manipulate this, not manipulate, to just give the lower punishment for this, because the result, the consequences is actually blind for one eye for the victims. According to the victimology issue for the punishment, it is not fair also. Okay. And also the question is, why there is no Article 359, paragraph 2? It is actually the maltreatment for law officers. Yeah, if we have this indictment, we will have the intellectual dander, because they not only discuss about the maltreatment, but they talk about the duty also as the officers. With that, we're gonna have more. But it is possible why we don't have this, because the topic is not because the investigation is done by the police officers. It is impossible to have that article for this case. Okay. Now, how will it be related to the corruption eradications? For example, now we're going to start with the novel KPK investigator. Novel Baswedan led several investigations that is very big. First case, we can see EKTP. We can see also Nur Hadi as the General Secretary of Supreme Court. Nur Hadi was run away, but now has been held in the KPK's office. Akil Mukhtar, the former the former Constitutional Court judge, and also the former Regent Buol, the Regent Buol, and also the Wisma Atlet case. If you see this one, IKTP involves the legislative member. In the right side, it is actually the judicial body, and the left side we talk about the executive thing. So all all the powers in the country has relation to this one. So it is actually it can be said like Pak Maharu said about the political things. When Pak Adnan mentioned it is actually academic guess, but in my opinion, I can just see the facts like this. It is still difficult to find, because before these cases, also for example, Novel also investigated some high rank members of the police officers. So actually it become more political. It's not easy to talk about this easily, so this actually the case, that can be impacted. How will it be impacted? So the questions will be the number of delayed corruption cases may increase because of the officers. They become more careful, they try to avoid the conflicts, they try to be more, they try to calculate everything better than before. It's not only Novel Baswedan case, like KPK loses in many pre-trial cases, that also impacts for the delay cases. So they become more careful to adjudicate case, because they will be brought to the pre-trial. Because now if you name a person a suspect, they can bring that to the pre-trial. Okay, so before that, they have special measures. If you know, one of the special measures they have is interceptions, tapping, and also red-handed cases, OTT, red-handed cases. Before that, and they have the case like this. They have the change of the board also, that the police general become the leader. And maltreatment also for Novel Baswedan. Now we can see that we have less red-handed cases. The coordinations between KPK, Polri is not actually good enough. I was writing in the one of the national media. I said that in that paper, to make the corruption eradication better, the KPK and Polri should work together in harmony, because that is actually the key to eradicate the corruptions. For that, the general police become the member of the chief is actually better, but this case, this Novel Baswedan case is not a good improvement for that coordinations. So that will be the impact for that. My solution is the protection of law enforcement is not the focus in here since they are given the power. If you talk about the violence for the police officers, there are a lot. There are a lot violence for the police officers, but they are not prosecuted easily because police officer has the power. They can just use the special measure to stop those violence. But not all officers like that. For example, if we talk about the public servant investigators, they have limited authorities. KPK with many strong authority, KPK has limited uh, against violence authority. So that is why KPK needs to have something like that. KPK needs to give the authority to investigate the violence for the officers like this. And also if you can see, oh, this is related to one of the case, this can also be considered as obstruction of justice, so KPK may have the authority. But if they cannot see the relevance with the case, the obstruction of justice is not that easy, because obstruction of justice is a clear article. It should directly to the case, the obstructions. Okay, I think that will be all for my opinion. Uh, I will give it back to Mbak Sabila. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the explanation from Mr. Muhammad Fatahil Akbar. I think it is interesting explanations regarding the relationships between Novel Baswedan case and the corruption and eradication in Indonesia. They start to explain how it's actually the progress of how it's handled the case itself and what is the impact because justice once it's delayed and it was denied. And the problem that we are handling, the problem that we are facing is resulting in cause of a delay in the proving the justice, and then the KPK is one of them is the KPK is not competent to handle the case because the case was particularly is a maltreatment, and then the police as the suspects, even if it's not your country, actually if the police as the suspects, police shall have their own independent body to investigate, and then but also I already explained in the previous explanation. So to that, since it was uh, already feels like it's obvious that the delay of the investigator resulting in the increase of the number of corruption cases happening. So the solutions that were offered is to the protection of the law enforcement is not becoming the focus and using the obstruction of justice as the tool and realizing that the capital may also contributing in the violence itself. Yes, I think that was all the materials that were delivered by all the speakers today. So we are coming to an interesting also a also what we call this Q&A sessions, which is a question and answer sessions. So as it explained earlier about the regulations, but today's discussions, so these Q&A sessions will be open for 2 sessions. So the first sessions, I will invite at least 3 participants to asking questions, and then the second sessions, I will be inviting 2 participants to asking questions. As I explained also before, it will be done 2 ways. Each participant can click the raise hand features, and then I will invite them to turn on the camera and start to introduce themselves and their origin, or and that you can type the questions to the comment to the chat comment below in this if you are joining our discussions today via Zoom, or if you're joining us in today's webinar via live YouTube, you can write down the question in the comment sections below, and I will read the questions, and then I will invite the questions. I will invite the person who asked to join in this today's discussion. So the first questions come from Fayez Adesta. Mr. Fayez Adesta, you may turn on the camera and start introduce yourself. So the question is, will the judges be questioned by the judicial commissioner if the judge decide higher than what the prosecutor asked for or ultra parity? Mr. Fayez Adesta, are you here? Are you still here with us? Hello, Mr. Fayez Adesta. Oh, he is not here with us today. So I will moving on to the second questions. So for the next questions come from Mr. Hertama Arboria. Mr. Hertama Arboria, are you here with us?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. You asking that specifically to Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan, fabricated case may happen again in the near future. Can it actually be stopped? Because it's only referred to the violence of ethics, in my opinion, it's not giving a deterrent effect. Maybe fabricated case can revert to the violation of criminal code too, if it's possible, so that law enforcement will think twice to do it fabricated case. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hertama Arbore, you may want to elaborate more about your questions, but before that, you may introduce yourself and your origins. The time is yours.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Hertama Arborea from Surabaya. Yeah. I'm currently working in PLN Group. I've also graduated from IP on 2014. Yeah. So thank you for giving me the opportunity. Basically, I'm interested in Mr. Ahmad's explanation regarding fabricated case because fabricated case can happen again in the future. I mean, because probably that there is a a pressure coming from the boss, so that this public prosecutor has to proceed this case. So maybe by that time he makes a fabricated case. So my question is that if only fabricated case would be violated into the ethics, then in my opinion, it's only it will not give a deterrent effect to that person. So if it's possible, can we also look into the criminal code regarding this fabricated case so that this kind of person can be proceed into court too because he make a fabricated case? Maybe that is my question.
Thank you so much for the questions. Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan, would you like to answer the questions now?
Okay, thank you, Sabila. First of all, Hertama, how do you pronounce your name? Hertama Arborea?
Hertama Arborea, sir. Arborea.
Well, you said that you graduated from IP program from 2000 and from what university?
UEE, sir.
But I never met you. I'm also a lecturer in well, but you graduated in 2004.
2004.
Oh, so that was before my time. So I thought you were one of my students, and you should not question my student.
I'm one of Mr. Mahrus Ali's students.
Oh, okay. Then I think you are a better student than if you are my student. No wonder you're smart. You're his student. Okay, anyway, let me respond to your question. basically your question, say, if I may rephrase, your question is about, it's a fabrication, it's a fabricated case. So how do we prevent such fabrications to happen in our court system? Well, I don't know if I have the ability to respond, to provide you with the satisfying response or answer to that. But here is my thought though. They fabricate it because they do not comply to our rules of evidence. That's why they fabricate. If they comply, I think, you know, both of the other speakers are, you know, very well expertise in their field, and I don't know if I have the content to speak on before them, but this is my thought. Because usually fabrications in the case is due to the facts that they are weak with the available evidence which is presented before them. That usually is the case. So if you enforce and if you apply a strict compliance to our rule of evidence, then you would not have it would be very difficult for any law enforcement to deviate from that rules of evidence, because our rule of evidence really is a complicated, it's a very difficult thing to prove. Like you have to have at least two instrument of proof. Okay, two instrument of proof. In my observation, in my research, when I did my research in Gajah Mada University, and it was approved by that institution, it means it should be applied because it was approved by Professor Eddie. I think Pak Muhammad here very well in acquaintance with Professor Eddie, and he was my teacher. He is a lot younger than me, but he is a lot smarter than me. So forget about the age. Okay, age is just a number. It does not matter. Okay. Anyway, if you're talking in my research, when you present a proof, it has to be direct. Because if it's not direct, it does not qualify as instrument of proof. Tidak berlaku sebagai alat bukti if it's not direct. When I say direct, mean if you are a witness, it has to be an eyewitness. It has to be someone who directly experience or see within his sight. He witnessed the crime, not indirectly witnessed the crime. If A stabbed B, then he was the one who saw that. Now that is called a direct evidence. That only that can be called as an instrument of proof. You need to have two, and it's very difficult. In my research, it reveals that to have a conviction, to have a case with beyond reasonable doubt. Beyond reasonable doubt means that you do not have a slightest doubt that he is the killer or he is the principal offender. You do not have any doubt. Most of the time, more often than not, you do have doubt. That's why with using our theory of proof, our theory of rules of evidence, it's because it's difficult. The statistics should say that 99% of the time, the case should be acquitted or exonerated because it's difficult to prove. How can you prove? Okay, let's take an example. How can you prove that someone has committed adultery? Adultery itu perzinahan ya. Bagaimana membuktikan perzinahan? You cannot. You can only use your assumption. You cannot prove that. If someone make a file a criminal complaint, yeah, that he is sleeping with my wife, how do you prove that in court? Because it has to be because to prove that the court have to be able to establish that there was a penetration. And how can you prove that? So you only use your assumption. And that's what our court system does. They use their assumptions to establish their conviction. So responding to your questions, what I'm trying to say that if you use strictly the rule of evidence provided by our law, by our book, by our law of procedure, which is, according to my understanding, to my comprehensions, it's complete and it's perfect to me. With that we can prevent any fabrications in the future. I hope that that answer your question. I return it to Sabila. Go ahead, Sabila.
Thank you so much for the explanations. I hope Mr. Haritama is already clearly about the questions and also the explanations involved. So is that if we strictly can prove the of evidence by our procedure completely, is actually it's completely. Let me repeat once more time if you probably cannot hear my voice clearly. So he said that if you use strictly proof of evidence by our procedure, and I think it was considered complete to prevent any form of fabrications. Thank you so much. And so the next questions is actually from the YouTube sections. And the question is from Manki Kid. Manki Kind. Oh, okay. So the question is, apakah Kompolnas dan Komisi Kejaksaan yang dapat lakukan terhadap Irjen Rudi yang diduga melakukan tindakan yang melanggar konflik kepentingan dan kejanggalan LHKPN dari JPU yang menangani kasus Novel Baswedan. So this question is also proposed to Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan. And again, Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan, you may answer the questions.
I don't know if I should be honored or flattered with all the questions that addressed to me. You know? I'm kind of jealous with Pak Muhammad and Pak Mahrus there. But anyway, yes, I think that is the territory of Kompolnas and Komisi Kejaksaan, to try that prosecution. But I would like, but again, if you go to Kompolnas or Komisi Kejaksaan Cepat Violence, I just want to mention one thing, because they're going to use, and this is going to be their defense, I think, is the perkap which was earlier cited by Pak Muhammad Fatah. Yeah, perkap. What was the origin of the perkap? Pak Fatah, can you repeat what was perkap?
Peraturan Kapolri.
Perkap number what?
Peraturan Kapolri number 2 of 2017.
2017. Okay. If you go to Kompolnas, they will cite this and they will refute it, and with this argument, okay, with this perkap. According to this perkap and according to the explanations of Pak Muhammad Fatah Akbar, earlier he said that under this perkap you do not need a license because it is within, because he worked for the police and he was within the police. But here's my comment. Here's my reactions to that. There's a lot of noise. Okay, anyway, if you use that perkap, it will create a predicament. It will create a problem within the police, because if you use it means that he was on police duty. If you use this perkap, okay, if you use the part to say that I do not need a license to practice law. Number one, it means that the police were on duty. If they were on duty, which means they were working under the instructions of cavalry or the police. Now, that will put them on a spot. Okay? Now, on the other argument, if they're using perkap, if they're using perkap as their defense, my question is, we're talking about the level of undang-undang, a law against perkap, which have a higher hierarchy, right? Because according to undang-undang, you have to have a license. And that license is issued by Peradi or the Indonesian Bar Association. It cannot be issued by Kapolri or by anyone else. To practice in court, to practice law in our court system, you have to have that license. You cannot use other license. So what I'm saying to you is that kind of excuse is lame. That's all. Sabila, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the explanation, Mr. Adnan. And regarding the regulations, pretty much clear. We're discussing about the license, and then we come to the third questioner, which is from our friend named Yuan. So firstly, I will read the question first, and then I will let Yuan turn on the camera and then start to elaborate the questions. So he's asking about, the question is appointed to both first speaker and third speaker. So the first question, his first question is regarding the demand. So we are talking about if both of defendant prove not the offender, will both of them still should prosecuted? And then the second question, by the impact of this case, it will influence the relations between police and KPK. As you said so, sir, the police and KPK should be together and solid in solving problem in Indonesia. What do you think the impact will be? So I think we have Mr. Yuan Zaglul. You may turn on the camera and turn on the microphone and start to introduce yourself and then your origin. And then start to elaborate your questions too. The time is yours.
Yes. Thank you, the moderator, Sabila. I will directly ask the questions. But before that, my name is Yuan. I'm currently student of international program in Law Faculty of University of Indonesia. In the fourth semester in my second years. So my question actually will be two questions. The first question, I will appoint the first question to Mr. Dr. Mahrus Ali. And then the second question, I would like to appoint my second question to Mr. Fatahil Akbar. So it's actually simple questions. I just want to renew my memory about the demand right here. My question will be regarding the demands in the Baswedan case. So I would like to talk about if clause. If actually both of offender proof not to be guilty, I mean not proof not to be the offender in that case, will both of them still should be prosecuted? I mean, with another kind of issue. So that's my first question, appointed to Mr. Mahrus Ali. And my second question will be, as we know, by this case, that we know the relation between KPK and police officer right here is actually the matches, which mean is not really good by impact from this case. So as you say so, sir, that by solving any problems in Indonesia, both of the element like KPK and police officer should work together as a solid element. So what do you think the impact will be by the influence of this case? That's all my questions, sir. Thank you.
Okay, for Mr. Mahrus Ali, you may now answer the questions. So.
Okay, thank you. Hello, Yuan. How are you?
Yes, sir. I'm good, sir.
Okay. Let me explain in the brief first. In the criminal proceeding, one thing that everybody has to comply with the rule is, this is the duty of the judge to arrange or formulate the indictment. Okay, this is the first things that everybody has to know in the criminal trials. And the judge, okay, has an obligation to also comply with the indictment formulated by the public prosecutor, even though in the reality you will find a very strange case where the decisions of the judge frames or it is outside of the article formulated in the indictment of the public prosecutors. I cannot mention here, but there is a strange case where a judge, okay, decision is outside of the article formulated in the indictment of the public prosecutors. And then how about the position or the legal status of the sentence demand of the public prosecutors? Okay, is it legally binding for the judge? Of course, the judge has not any obligation to comply with the sentence demand formulated by public prosecutors. Like in this case, the public prosecutors assumes that the defendant, okay, has met the criteria or the elements of offense in the secondary or in the subsidiary indictments. This is what I call serious maltreatment. Okay? And the request of the public prosecutors is only a year of imprisonment. The question is, can judge, okay, comply with this request? Of course not. The judge can argues that the defendants, both of defendants, met the elements of offenses in the primary indictment. This is what I call serious maltreatment with premeditations. Of course, the punishment is a maximum imprisonment of 12 years. Okay, but I'm not sure, I'm really not sure that the judge will release the defendant. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I will not sure. I totally doubt that the judge will release the defendant. Based, actually, I have a small notification regarding the performance of this court trials collected by or performed by civil society organization. I read all of the testimony given by all the witnesses, and I'm not sure that the judge will release the defendant. The first thing is that, is it possible for the public prosecutor to assume that the defendant didn't commit the crime intentionally, because they just assume that the defendant intend to throw the sulfuric acid only to Nubil Baswedan eyes, not to only to Nubil Baswedan bodies, not to his eyes. Is it acceptable? Of course not. Of course, when we see the fact, okay, the defendant, okay, bought sulfuric acid, and then after praying subuh, he drove a motorcycles, and then he throw the sulfuric acid on Nubil Baswedan eyes, and he still assumes that I don't commit the crime intentionally. It is purely rejected based on the case. That's why I'm not sure that the judge will release the defendant, even though, of course, in the process of formulations of these sentence demands by public prosecutor, you have to know that you know that the systems performance in the attorney, the formulations or the planning of formulating sentence demand is not purely formulated by the public prosecutors, okay, who performs directly in the court, but he needs to consult to his boss. This is the systems. This is the system applied in the attorney. That's why we cannot blame purely to the public prosecutors. Why the sentence is only a year of imprisonment? You have to understand the systems applied, because like this, Yuan, like you are like as if you are public prosecutor in this case, and I'm your boss. You must consult to me. That's why we cannot blame purely to the public prosecutors who sentence the defendant only, okay, a year of imprisonment. I think that's all.
All right, thank you so much for the explanations. The second question is proposed appointed to Mr. Fatayla Akbar. So I will repeat again the question is the questions number 2 by Yuan is the impact of this case. It will influence the relations between police and KPK. So as you said so, sir, the police and KPK should be together and solid in solving problem Indonesia. What do you think the impact will be? Mr. Fatihul Akbar, you may answer
Yeah.
now the question.
Okay. Thank you, Mas Habila, and also Yuan for giving the questions. It is right, but it is not a popular opinion. When I was when I published an article about the relationship between Polri and KPK that should be strengthened, it was debated. It was some people. I have some friends in KPK also as the investigator, and also they against that because of the relationship has been so bad lately. So, so before the novel Baswedan case, they already have many issues about that. Like in Budi Gunawan case, they have other cases like novel Baswedan when he was in the police body. They have the issues about that. But actually, the point is because KPK only at the central point of Indonesia, only in Jakarta, and the corruption is all over the country, it is very important actually to work together. That is why actually when the general police become the commissioner now, I think that's actually the opportunity. But until now, I think the relationship is not getting better. Yeah, so that is actually the issues. Because when the KPK, Pol, Polri, and also the prosecutors, the general attorney, Kejaksaan Agung, if they cannot work together, is it will not optimally work, I think. And also, I think that's actually the concept. When I can discuss about the judges whether is it binding or not, I think yeah, I agree with Pak Atan and also Pak Mahrus. Yeah, they will be bound by the indictment will be the basic, not the sentence. But actually in the practice, mostly because they just become easier, they will just follow that. Or and in the practice also there are some cases like it is not in the indictment, but it is actually sentenced by the judge. So it is not. And the judges and also with the concept whether it is actually the mistakes of prosecutor or not, it is not, because in the as mentioned by Pak Mahrus, there is rendak, yeah, rencana dakwaan or the indictment draft that has to be agreed by the chief of the prosecutor. So the rendak, when they have the indictment or the charge rentut, yeah, rencana tuntutan, they have the draft. Before they bring that to the court, they have to consult with the chief. In the bigger cases, not only the local chief, the district chief, they can consult with the high district chief, or they will consult even for the general attorney for that. I think that's all. Thank you, Sabina.
Thank you so much for the explanations. I hope everyone already get a clear explanation from both the speakers. And then it is the end of the first sessions of the Q&A sessions. So we are coming to the second sessions. We get one questionnaire and it has two questions. So the questions is from Siska Giovanna Mapusa, and she would like to submit the question to the Honorable Mr. Muhammad Fatahillah Akbar. So the first questions, I would like to read it first. Based on what I read in the reviews or opinions of a number of experts on the internet, the novel Baswedan case is not merely a pure legal case, but is a case relating to the world of government power in this country because of novel Baswedan as a KPK investigator. If seen from the approach of legal science, how to respond to criminal cases with the tendency of political aspects like this? What variables should law enforcement prioritize in resolving this case? The second question is, does the absence of tracing who is the real intellectual daughter in the novel Baswedan case make this case injure three aspects of the legal objectives, namely certainty, justice, and legal use? Please enlighten me. First of all, I would like to call for Miss Siska Giovanna Mapusa. Are you still here? Miss Siska? Miss Siska, you may turn on your microphone and your cameras and try to introduce yourself, and then we explain your questions to the speakers.
Okay.
Time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Siska. And for this chance, I would like to submit a question to the Honorable Mr. Muhammad Fatila Akbar. So as I always read from some news and reviews or opinions by some experts that I read from the internet, and also some webinar, the expert of some webinar ever tell about this case, they said that novel Baswedan is not merely a pure legal case, but it is, it is relating to the world of government because of occupation or work of novel Baswedan himself. So my question is, if we see from the legal approach, how to respond the cases, I mean like the criminal cases in this case, related to the tendency of political aspects. I mean, what should the judges or a prosecutor should should think about this case, because it is related to the political aspects. And then the second one is, as all of us know that, and also some people and some experts say that the actor in this attorney, I mean like in this novel Baswedan cases, is not the real actor for doing, for doing the case. So if does the absence of tracing who is the real intellectual data of novel Baswedan case, does it will it make this case injure three aspects of the legal objectives that, as all of us know, namely certainty, justice, and also legal use? I think that's my question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Siska, for the questions. To Mr. Muhammad Fatahillah Akbar, you may now answer the questions. Sir, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Sabila, and also Mbak Siska for the questions. Yeah, I think, yeah, we have to admit that this is not pure legal case, Novel Baswedan, because Novel Baswedan led many corruption cases. Novel Baswedan has strong influence in the KPK. So when he got attacked and the attack is very difficult to trace, that is not a pure legal basis. So for that things, that is why I mentioned uh, s- in the speech that the concept is not is they already established the task force for investigating this case. That is actually the idea. But why the case is not still why it is not working at that time, because actually the case is actually harder than before. They cannot get any they can do interceptions, they can do any special measures, the task force, but they still cannot work for that, because maybe there are strong political reasons behind that. But the Indonesia already make this as the priority. Yeah, so that is actually so yeah, it already prioritized. But at some points before the Novel Baswedan case, the relationship between KPK and Polri is not good enough. Even though that Novel Baswedan is actually the member of police officers, yeah, but it's not strong enough. So that is actually the idea. For the second questions, if the intellectual data or the intellectual person is not found in this case, yeah, it is actually not completed the case. So there is a very great hole about the case, because you don't solve the whole puzzle. You just put the direct perpetrator, like the two persons in the court now, but we forgot about the behind that. Why it becomes like this? One of the issue is when I give the presentations about why they don't use maltreatment for legal officer, for the officers. If they create like that, they will find it the connections between the direct perpetrator and also the intellectual perpetrator, when we can see the line, because this is only the merely maltreatment. So they just focus on the action only. They did not ask about the relationship with the other persons, because it is not in the element of the crime. So that is why uh, yes, the case is not completed, but for the two persons, if we can put them in the punishment because of the action, is already done. Yeah, so it's not necessary for the maltreatment case for find the intellectual data, but for the, because this is not the purely legal things we have to find. But I think with the willingness and the other things now, it is very difficult to do. I think that that will be all for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for Mr. Fatela Akbar for explaining. I hope Mrs. Ka is already clear about the explanations regarding your questions, and thank you so much for asking. Um, we have the second questioners. I see from the participants, there is one participant that raised hands, namely Hanifah Nur Asufi. Ms. Hanifah Nur Asufi, are you here? Still join with us?
Hello.
Yeah. Welcome to today's discussions, and thank you so much for raising hands. You may now introduce yourself and your origins and start to elaborate your question to the speakers. The time is yours. Hello, Ms. Hanifa Nur Asufi. I think I just found out that she left the today's discussions. Uh, so I will give times for the participants who wants to asking more questions. We still have one more participants left. They're allowed to ask questions. Please, the participants, you may click the features of raise hands, or you can write down your questions in the chat sections below. I think we don't have any more questions left in the comment sections. I would like to ask for a simple closing statement from each of the speakers. For Mr. Mahrus Ali, do you have any closing statement that you want to deliver to us? Please, Mr. Mahrus Ali, you may proceed.
Okay, thank you. Actually, this is a very simple case, not complicated case, but the problem is in the hand of investigators when he tried to collect all relevant facts within the case. So we cannot blame purely to the public prosecutors, because the first process of this case is started by the investigators. The problem is this is the case involving the police, and the investigator is also from the police institutions. Do you think that the investigator will perform objective ways in collecting all relevant facts within the case? I'm not sure. So that's why in the future we should have an independent legal institutions to cope all the case committed by state apparatus. If there is a police commit a crimes, of course, the process of investigation will be handled by independent legal institutions, not from the police. If the case is still handled by the police, of course, I'm not sure that the criminal proceeding will pay attention to the principle of justice. And the last, I think, common responsibility, as Abiyuda Surya asked in chat rooms. This is a very simple case, and I'm sure that, and I'm not sure that there are only two, okay, perpetrators committed the case. That's why in criminal law we have what I call intellectual debtors. It can be medepleger or it can be witlocker. If medepleger, of course, there are more than one perpetrators who commit crimes intentionally together. But in terms of witlockers, there are two parties. The first, intellectual debtors or intellectual pleasure, and the second is material material debtors. I think that's all. This is a very simple case. It is purely rejected when the public prosecutor assumes that the defendant didn't commit the crime intentionally, whereas all three types of maltreatment used by the public prosecutor in the indictment requires intentions. All the three types of maltreatment used by the public prosecutor against requires intentions. So if the defender didn't commit the crime intentionally, the judge must release the defendant. I think that's all. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for the closing statements. We're going to the second speaker, Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan. Do you have some closing statements that you want to deliver to us before we close the discussions?
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Shakila. My closing statement, my first statement is that well, we believe that the real offender, the principal offender, is not here in this court. So we believe that this is just a drama. This is just one big cover-up. That is my first statement. But my other issue is this: if an ordinary citizen is put to trial with the same crime like this, let's say someone is Mukidi, named Mukidi, like that, okay? He's an ordinary citizen, he assaulted, he attacked a police officer. What would be the kind of crime? What would be the kind of a charge or indictment which be addressed to him? It would be a very severe one. It would not be, it would not just be this article here, 353. Not only that, I believe, because as mentioned by Mas Akbar previously, Novel was involved in the investigations of a high-profile case, like, you know, the constitutional judge, the case of Nur Hadi. And I believe he also involved in the case of investigating the what do you call it? Rekening gendut itu. So it was an assault against that. So when he was investigating and then he was assaulted and attacked, then we have reasons to believe, to convince ourselves that this would also be related with the corruption. So they should also put it in their indictment and their charge as an obstruction. They should invoke the obstruction of justice clause, right? If it was an ordinary citizen, that would be, that's why we believe that this is a fabricated case, because they do not do it maximally. Because we see, okay, if we look at the definitions of obstruction of justice, one is someone who prevent the execution of lawful process, prevent the case to proceed, you know, blocking or hindering witness to appear, assaulting, attacking court officer, or investigator like Novel. So this qualify, all these facts qualify to be charged with obstruction of justice related with his role in the, eradicating the corruption. So I believe that should be invoked. That is my second comment. But the other issue that I think with three speakers should come up with a common term of this kind of crime. I mean, Pak Mas Mahtiros mentioned it's what do you call it? Maltreatment. I'm not familiar with that. Okay, and earlier Pak Akbar used the word torture, and I do not think torture would be the precise term, because in torture itu equivalent with in our legal system itu equivalent with in bahasa is penyiksaan. Ya, itu torture is penyiksaan. By definition, it means that the action or practice inflicting severe pain as a punishment or revenge, itu torture. Balas dendam, torture itu balas dendam, or an activity by an intelligent agent, you know, to get confession, to obtain confession, itu torture. But that is not. But you know, I think I was going to come up with the assault and battery. If you're familiar with that term, this is in a common law system, assault and battery. Maybe we should use that term. But maltreatment, I don't know. In America, in a common law system, my observation is a second-degree felony. I don't know. Maybe it can be, but I'm really not familiar. Maybe you can educate me on this because I'm just a practitioner and you do a lot of research and I don't. I just voice my opinion in court. That's all I do. I don't read a lot of books as many as you guys do. Anyway, I think we should come up with an established term for this kind of crime because the one which is identical with this type of crime is assault and battery, but I don't know it's precise, but it's close, you know. So, but then here I use aggravated assault, you know, first degree aggravated assault. I don't know if that's precise or not because I never speaks about this in English. So I guess that's my closing statement, Mbak Sabila. I return the time to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. There is an incredible closing statements, and we can point out some of the points that, as of course, as a student, as a future legal, as a legal expertise in the future, maybe it could be like a really good message for us in the future and to handle. For example, there's a case like this, we should have a new term to the sort kind of cases. And then thank you so much. We came to the third speaker from Mr. Fatahil Akbar. You may now deliver your closing statement before we close.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Sabila. Thank you, Mas Mahrus Ali, and also Pak Ahmad Wirawan Adnan for also giving the lecture today. Because of this case already is already been the trending for weeks. I think in Indonesia, YouTube, Twitter, and also other social media is already trending. And because of that, some people say that just eradicate the faculty of law. We don't need law scholars because of these situations. Yeah, that's actually become the issue also. For that things, I think what we can learn from all of this is, for example, like mentioned by Pak Mahsul also, we cannot blame the public prosecutor. We are not in the position of that public prosecutor because it is possible that they become the victim also because the chief asked them and also the other things. So what we can learn from the situation is, I believe most of the participants also from Faculty of Law, when we graduate and become the practitioners, we have to maintain the integrity wherever we practice. So that is actually the closing statement I have. So how we individually, we cannot ask more from the government, we cannot ask more from the judge, we cannot ask more even from the KPK. We can start that from ourselves. So we can start from the small things. We try to keep our integrity and become the better person, so we can be the yeah, we can be the law network that has very good integrity. I think that is actually all for me. Thank you, Mbak Sabila.
Thank you so much for the closing statements. I think it is also it is correct that we should have keep up our integrity as a as a law expertise in the future. I think we are. I think the discussions was already done, and from the first discussions that is delivered by Mr. Mahrus Ali, that he said that he said that if the intentional elements the intentional elements is not proven, then the defendant shall be released. But then at some point, for some reasons, it may not can be happen. And he already explained that if a serious maltreatment, it shall be there is an element of an intentional. So if it doesn't prove it, then they cannot actually charge them in 1 year imprisonment. And the second explanations delivered by Mr. Adnan himself, he said that there's a lot of not only irregularity, but it's also proven that there is a fabricated the case by the prosecutor itself, which is violating the ethics, not only that, but seeing the advocate itself is delivering a dual job. I think it was something that is should be we are see it as a something that is odd, but then again, as like our church speakers already saying also that we should have came up with a solutions which is the protections of law enforcement is not always being the focus, and then we hope that in the future there will be another independent institutions that will cover up the idea of investigating if perhaps in the future that the suspects come from the police institutions. And the of course we are coming to the end, which is the closing. So before we end the sessions today, my name is Sabila Fitri Azara. As a moderator for today, I would like to apologize for any of my words of mine that are considered as some mistakes or might be considered unpleasant to hear. May we all today can take our knowledge from today's discussions can be somewhat beneficial and can be important for us in the future. For example, particularly us as a student of law, and then can be creating a future that is much more integrated in the sector of the law prosecutions. And we still have the obligations to respect the course of our law no matter what happened. And then I think that is all from me. Ega Prabandari, you may take it from me now. Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you for Sabila Azhara, and thank you to Mr. Dr. Mahrus Ali SMH, also Mr. Ahmad Wirawan Adnan SMH, and also for the informations and knowledge which have been given to us. May it be useful for us. And for the participants, don't forget to fill the link presence in the chat column or WhatsApp group. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, we get the last session in this event that is closing. Let's close this event by saying Alhamdulillah together. Alhamdulillah. As the master of ceremony, thanks to all the presenters, the committee, and the audience entirely, may what we had conducted will be useful for us. One more time, I say thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen,
Mas Akbar, Assalamualaikum.
Salam, sama-sama Pak.
Ladies and gentlemen, if in guiding this event I made mistake in delivering words of or offending someone here, please forgive me. And the last word, wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi